For a game called Rain World, rain seems like a glaringly absent element when you first start playing it. You emerge from a dank sewer tunnel as an inquisitive-looking Slug-Cat, still learning the ropes of how to move around in this half-feline, half-formless body, and your goal is to find food, explore, and beware of predators. Like something led by pure instinct, you venture out into the world. You squeeze through tunnels, you scramble up pipes, balancing triumphantly when you reach their tops. You catch bats out of the air that will serve as a source of food, and you feel oddly at ease with hunting these small beings that seem totally innocent and unaware of you. It's amazing how quickly the rug gets pulled out from under you though, because lurking around every corner of this world is a hostile creature that will veer towards you as soon as it catches your scent. You have been unknowingly thrown into a virtual game of survival of the fittest. Just as you get to grips with this world, inhabiting this strange creature, your controller rumbles jarringly. First only once, then a few more times, and soon the screen begins to shake. Panic sets in. You know that something must be coming, but you have no idea what, just that it's ominous, it's chaotic, and there's only so much that a Slug-Cat can survive. The rain starts. Not little by little, but all at once. It's more than a downpour, worse than torrential, it's biblical. Your heart beats faster in primal fear as you fight, you climb, you try to remember where a safe room might be hiding. The rain hammers down and you realize you're already too late. Water races up your screen and your Slug-Cat gasps for breath. The screen shakes violently, the controller rumbles so hard it might jump out of your hands, and your Slug-Cat disappears from view. The opening 15 minutes of Rain World manages to present to you so many of the perils of nature. It's a digital food chain where you aren't sure what could kill you and what could serve as a means of survival. And yet, the point that it hammers home to you is that the single most dangerous thing in this world isn't the predators who hunt you. The most powerful force here isn't evolution or hunger, it's rain. The Last of Us Part 2 is not my favorite game. I think it might be one of the most well-made games of all time, and it showcases the incredible talent of the development team at Naughty Dog. But at the same time, I think it is a narratively and structurally flawed piece of media. And yet, regardless of your thoughts on this game, you have to admit that its rain is stunning. You don't have to explore Naughty Dog's post-apocalyptic version of Seattle for long to know that rain is a constant presence in it. Even when it's relatively dry, there's vibrant plant life everywhere that's waiting for its next shower. There are pools of water left over from the last time there was a downpour, and clouds in the distance make it clear that it's going to rain again soon. But when the rain arrives, it doesn't just fall from the sky, it floats in the wind or darts down with venom. It trickles from ledges and flows from the rooftops. Streams form on muddy surfaces, and droplets are perfectly caught and absorbed by clothing. I, rather famously, don't enjoy the realism in games like Red Dead Redemption 2, but the amount of realism that was applied to The Last of Us Part 2's rain is genius. Realism is such an important aspect of The Last of Us because it's all about grounding you in a world so gruesome you shouldn't ever want to inhabit it. It's a cautionary tale about the cycle of violence and our own flawed morality, and realistic settings are a huge part of making it feel like a potential future for humanity. Seattle, on America's Pacific Northwest, is an infamously rainy place. You apparently can't visit at any point without seeing rain, which is something I can relate to as a Scotsman, let me tell you. I like to think Naughty Dog chose Seattle as a setting for The Last of Us Part 2 because in a world this bleak and unforgiving, the only thing that could make everything in it more miserable is the wet, cold rain. You see this everywhere. Ellie will grimace as her clothes become sodden. Seraphites wear enormous coats like suits of armor. Even the infected stay inside, safe from the constant downpours of the outdoors. All of this is supremely impressive and gives Seattle's rain a feeling of authenticity that so many other games lack. It is an all-encompassing, inescapable part of this place. But perhaps my favorite thing about The Last of Us Part 2's rain is how it links to the game's narrative themes.
You said it took 6 inches of rainfall before the victim died. How much time do we have left?
If the weather forecasts are right, less than 72 hours.
You can't really make a video about rain in video games without touching on Quantic Dream's iconic 2010 release, Heavy Rain. In short, this is a game where it's always raining. Even when it launched back in the PS3 era, it was nothing short of a technical masterpiece. The storytelling, the animation, the interactive movie gameplay, it had all never really been done like this before. Unfortunately, it hasn't aged all that well, and you'll likely know it best now for its memes and its goofy storytelling.
Jason!
But despite its quirks, you can't really take anything away from its central character. Nope, not this guy. Or even this guy. No, its central character is its rain. You see, Heavy Rain is a pastiche of crime noir thriller films. It might seem silly to have a game where it never stops raining, but that's actually a really important plot device that adds tension to your playthrough. A young boy, Sean, has been kidnapped by the notorious origami killer, who only murders children when there's heavy rainfall. He puts his victims in tanks that are open to catch the rainwater, and challenges their fathers to go through a series of trials to save them before their tanks fill up and the children drown. As silly as that premise probably seems now, I have vivid memories of playing this as a kid when it came out, and back then, I knew that with every minute that passed, this kidnapped child was closer to drowning. It added stakes to a game that already felt so unique because of its complex decision-making and potential permadeath. Rain in this game felt like a clock that was constantly ticking. Like I say, this game hasn't aged terribly well, and is now remembered best for its narrative foibles and just abysmal gameplay. Still, it arguably paved the way for the use of rain in a lot of modern video games, and for that, we should all be grateful.
Okay.
Are you fucking kidding me?
The Last of Us Part 2's rain might be a realistic part of its level design, but it's also an excellent personification of Ellie's grief. This whole game is a simplistic examination of the cycle of violence, but to me, it's always been more about Ellie's failure to grieve the one true family figure she's ever really had. Grief is often thought of as a heavy thing. We talk about the weight of grief, the depth of sorrow, or the burden of loss. When we grieve in unhealthy ways, it becomes emotional baggage that weighs us down, and we inadvertently offload it onto the people closest to us. In the same way, we talk about light and heavy rain, which is a funny coincidence when it comes to Ellie. Whenever we get a flashback to a memory of Joel, it's always sunny. And even if there are darker scenes around, Joel will always be shown in rays of sunlight. In the same way, whenever Ellie's grief overcomes her in Seattle, it begins to rain. When her grief forces her into actions she herself ends up being revolted by, the rain becomes heavier, often presenting itself as a storm. These downpours are a constant presence in the city of Seattle, yes, but as the personification of grief in this game, Rain never leaves. During day 1 in Seattle, Ellie and Dina explore parts of downtown. They comfort one another, Ellie is distracted by her goal, and her emotional state seems fairly stable. It's clear that even though she's being driven on by a lust for revenge, she's still coping with the loss that she's facing. Funnily enough, it doesn't really rain properly on day 1 until the two have to escape the tunnels. This sudden downpour begins right after Ellie has revealed her immunity to Dina, and we later find out this is the first time she's ever told anyone about it since her adventure with Joel in the first game. It's almost as though Ellie starts to think of her late father figure, and the heavens open. Once she settles into the theater, she finds a guitar, and she begins to play Future Days, the first song that Joel taught her. We can clearly see Ellie's sadness start to overcome her, and as she rests her chin on the wood of the guitar, this is what we hear.
This is Los Santos Rock Radio.
Some games use rain not for atmosphere or narrative, but to put a different spin on their mechanics. Rockstar, the creators of Grand Theft Auto, have always been masters of using rain to keep exploration interesting. They know that the majority of the time their players spend in this game is driving around in cars, whether that's for missions or for their own personal enjoyment, and they make damn sure that driving around in good conditions feels completely different to driving around in the rain. In the sunlight, Los Santos looks as superficially perfect as this satirical take on LA can. You can see from miles in front of you, sports cars gleam in the light, and the streets are filled with pedestrians taking performative phone calls as loudly as they can. Driving feels great, and it's easy enough to thread between cars on busy freeways as you speed around the map. But in the rain, cars start to drive like they did in GTA 4, like they're sliding around on butter. The streets empty, water collects on the tarmac, and the backdrop of the city is now gloomy and depressed. It's like the true character of this world has come out to rear its ugly head. Cars struggle to keep their grip, and water swirls from your skidding tires as you try your best to accelerate. I have spent almost 1,000 hours playing Grand Theft Auto 5 since it released in 2013, and some of my favorite moments have been driving around aimlessly in the pouring rain. There was no real need for Rockstar to go this hard on GTA 5's rain, but they did it because they knew people like me, hundreds of hours in, would appreciate the occasional changes of pace that come with different weather conditions. There really isn't anything quite like taking your car out of the garage in this game, rolling out onto the rainy streets of Los Santos, and hearing Rain by The Cult start to play on the radio. Not many games use rain to make things more fun, but I think GTA 5 nails it.
There's the hospital. Fuck. Thought I'd be closer.
Day 2 in Seattle is gloomy and atmospheric. It doesn't really rain throughout this chapter, but it feels like it could at any moment. Like the air is thick with a growing tension. Low-hanging clouds and mist in the air signal that a storm is on its way. Ellie is completely distracted by her quest for vengeance, tunnel-visioned to find her father's killers. There's a growing sense of frustration that after an unsuccessful day 1, she needs to make some progress. Ellie manages to keep a lid on her emotions as she fights her way through the city, trying to reach the hospital. I don't know about you, but when I originally played this game, I had this awareness throughout day 2 that Ellie was killing more and more people. Even for someone as badass as Ellie in a world this grim, the amount of lives she starts to take seems excessive. With no companion character to keep her in check or otherwise judge her decisions, it feels like she's becoming someone else entirely, like she's on the verge of a transformation. Ellie's actions at the end of day 2 made a lot of people turn away, not just in disgust at what one of their favorite characters was becoming, but in shock that Naughty Dog was forcing players to be complicit in it. As one of the game's most harrowing moments unfolds, and Ellie's emotions turn from rage to shell shock, the low-hanging clouds that have been a foreboding presence in Seattle for the entire chapter burst. The storm has arrived, and to me, this symbolizes Ellie's complete failure to process Joel's death and the path her misguided desire for vengeance has led her down, to a point of no return. We don't see her journey back to the theatre that evening, but when she knocks on the door, we hear the torrential rain she's walked through, and see her utterly drenched to the bone. By far, one of my favourite things about rain is how it sounds. Showdown is a multiplayer first-person shooter presented through its sound design first and foremost. So when it was revealed that a new rain condition was going to be added in, I could not have been more excited. This is a game where you gather information about your enemies through sounds you hear on the map. Some crows just got spooked to the northeast. Based on the way that the map is closing down, the team that triggered them are likely headed west. Oh, wait a sec. I just heard a shotgun blast from the same direction. We should engage them from a distance to have the best chance. When the thunder shower kicks in this game, it levels the playing field. You can't hear enemies approaching. You can't make out gunfire as easily. Even in close range fights, footsteps become masked by the volume of raindrops pounding down on different surfaces. Seeing through the storms is just as difficult, and it's easy to mistake a passing figure in the distance for just another grunt. The Rain and Hunt Showdown ticks all of the boxes for me. It's presented beautifully, it adds a change of atmosphere, but its rain also sounds as detailed as any game you'll come across. Droplets even make this tiny splash animation on your weaponry, creating tiny pinging noises as they deflect off the metalwork. Footsteps are one of the core sounds in this game, and even those sound different, squelching under your every move. It's often joked that Hunt is a horror game, and having no idea if an enemy team is around you because it's hammering down with rain is enough to make even veteran players terrified. Maybe that's why it's not so popular with some of them. Day 3 of Ellie's revenge quest is a continuation of the night before. If rain up until this point has been a symbol of her grief, the storm that's violently changing the landscape of Seattle is now reflective of Ellie losing sight of herself in the wake of that grief. Clearly lying to Jesse, she says they'll go out to find Tommy and head home with the pregnant Dina thereafter. As it becomes clear that she's really only interested in finding Abby, the storm gradually picks up. The pair then have the choice to keep heading towards the aquarium where they know Abby is, or follow the clear-cut path to rescuing Tommy. Ellie abandons Jesse without hesitation, and I love that she then makes her way through this storm in a boat. Grief is often described as a waterfall in the river of life, where you've been peacefully making your way downstream, suddenly the water starts churning, the boat bumps perilously against the rocks, and your oar is ripped away from you as you're carried unwillingly towards a precipice and thrown into the frothing, freezing basin below. Ellie is now being guided by the currents of her own grief, and it's leading her down a dangerous path. There's some lovely framing throughout this chapter, where every vista shows the Ferris wheel Ellie is trying to get to. It's a dramatic backdrop that looms behind the rain clouds. Ellie gets closer and closer, and the storm gets more violent, making the city unrecognizable, lost in a flood. Streets are now whitewater rapids, the innards of buildings are floodgates, and it's no longer a space that's hospitable to any wildlife. In her home stretch, Ellie is eventually capsized by the storm and almost drowns. An excellent piece of foreshadowing for the game's final confrontation. When Ellie ends up murdering an innocent, pregnant woman, we hear a ringing in her ears, and the only noise that powers through it is the rain outside. Similarly, when Abby arrives at the theatre later on, she's wearing rain droplets on her arms and shoulders, like Ellie's grief has rubbed off on people around her, and Abby now has her own losses to come to terms with. When I began talking about The Last of Us Part 2 in this video, I mentioned that it's not my favourite game. Despite how much credit I've given it in this video, that remains true. However, it might be my favourite example of rain in video games, because it shows how powerful a device it can be in this medium. Rain has been used since the dawn of storytelling to provide a foreboding atmosphere or to mirror a character's emotions, but games can present rain in untapped ways, using interactivity, sound, and mechanical changes to bring it to life. Some games use it to put a spin on their formulas or to make things more challenging. Some games are brilliant at harnessing rain to ground you in a place, and others make it a centerpiece of their gameplay loops, no matter the reason behind it. I love video game rain. I think it's a very underrated aspect of modern games that never gets the credit it deserves. Now, there are too many great examples of video game rain to mention in any one video, and I am so aware of that. I want to thank you so much for watching if you still are, but if I've missed your favourite video game rain out, I'm very sorry. Please tell me what it might be in the comments below. If you like this video, the subscribe button and the bell icon will let you know whenever I make something new, and if you want to keep up with everything I have in the works, or just chat at length with me about video games, the link to join my Discord is in the description. Thanks again, and tune in next time.